Hey everybody, time for another episode of Thoughts from Josh. So, the thing I was thinking about this morning, or really I guess most of these things are that I talk about or I post about are kind of just always floating around in my head, just thoughts. So again, I'm kind of treating this as like a journal that I share. So. Yeah. So my thought of the day is around renewable energy and renewable resources. And maybe this is already happening. I mean, we kind of see it in solar energy. We kind of see it in hydro and wind. But I'm kind of wondering if there's other energy sources that we can use and learn about if we look at nature and how does nature create energy, and again, can we reproduce how nature creates energy without causing our kind of negative footprint, so to speak. In all of nature, there is a harmony, a partnership. There's an understanding that the byproduct of one organism can be used by or consumed by another organism. But when we use fossil fuels to do what we feel like we need to do, we break that partnership because there's no byproduct of fossil fuel usage or consumption that supports another function in nature. Let me change that because I may not fully understand the whole refining process. So there may be some byproduct of fossil fuel usage that could be consumed by nature, but maybe it can't to the level at which we are producing it. I'll put that caveat. I'm in no way, shape, or form am I an expert on fossil fuel refinery or all the different byproducts that come out of fossil fuel refinery and consumption. But you kind of have to think about, okay, so everybody probably did in elementary school the whole thing where you power a light bulb, or you power a simple alarm clock off of a battery, or not a battery. Everybody does it off a battery. Sorry, a potato. So, you understand in science class, kind of how that works and why that works, and the chemical process that occurs inside the potato that facilitates that working. And so, I got to thinking the other day, is there a plant that exists in nature that has a similar chemical makeup as the inside of a potato that would allow us to basically have fields and fields and fields of this plant all kind of wired together, producing energy for us. And because it's a plant, kind of an added benefit bonus is we've added all this photosynthesis. So we're converting carbon monoxide. I get them confused, but whatever it is, whatever we expel, so it converts that and uses that to produce oxygen, which we need. So it also helps to clean and scrub the air. It's why can't we look at things like that in nature of how we can use them to our benefit? is, for example, okay, I'll give you a really good example here. Tobacco. I think most people would agree that smoking is bad for you. All the chemicals that are in a cigarette, plus the tar from the plant itself, it's just a bad experience. But there are states, many states, including the one that I reside in, that the farmers who produce tobacco rely on it for their livelihood. So what if tobacco could be repurposed? Not as a cigarette, but is there another way we can use tobacco? Can we use it to, I don't know, make containers? Can we use it to, you know, I'm just spitballing here. You know, it's just, are there things that inefficiencies that we currently, in the way that we use the plant, that could be used differently and provide more efficiencies? You know, it's like, look at the, maybe there's, so hydrogen fuel cells. There's a big debate, I think, I don't know, probably haven't heard about it on the news or anything, but there's a pretty big debate, I think, around hydrogen fuel cells and their future. And a lot of people say that hydrogen fuel cells are kind of the way of the future. And I don't want to get into all the science behind hydrogen fuel cells, but here's a quick kind of explanation on a napkin, if you will. Basically, you put hydrogen in a car, you put hydrogen in a tank, then there's a hydrogen fuel cell which combines that hydrogen in some kind of process with oxygen that produces electricity, which powers an electric motor, and then the byproduct is water. Water trickles out of your tailpipe instead of gases that choke and kill the environment. So, in theory, this sounds like a great idea, right? Because we're taking an element that's pretty abundant, we're using it to power an electric motor, and the only byproduct is water. You know, this is great. The problem is like 95% of hydrogen today is available or created with a process that removes it from methane, and that process also produces a lot of CO2. So it's not really any better. You know, we could have every car in America could run off of a hydrogen fuel cell, but because the process to get the hydrogen still pumps CO2 into the environment, it's not really a environmental savings. So we need a better way of producing hydrogen, right? Like, you know, that would be agreeable. So what if there's an algae, there's a microbe, there's a bacteria that would consume methane and as a byproduct produce hydrogen? Then we could have great fields or tanks or whatever of this thing that, again, all we're doing is fostering life in this bacteria or the algae or whatever the case may be. But in return, it's giving us something that we need. And no negative byproduct. So, you know, there are opportunities for us to find different ways to do something. It's just, though the efforts to do so requires time and money. And I don't want to make this political, but it seems to me that there's more focus on keeping us on fossil fuels than there is about getting us off of fossil fuels. Now, somebody might say, well, what about, you know, all the stuff that goes, petroleum's used to make all the things on a car. You know, it's used used to make the plastic, and it's used to make to refine the metal, and it's used to, so on and so forth, and that may all be true, and it probably is true, but just because we don't have to boil the ocean, right? So we start with replacing how we power our vehicles. Then we move on to how do we replace the components in our vehicles with more eco-friendly items. Maybe we use, I think I saw the other day that somebody is taking bamboo and creating toilet paper instead of using paper, that we get from trees. Now, I've not used it. I don't know if it's, nice and fluffy on your tush, or if it's, like scraping bark against your ass. But the point is that somebody is thinking, what's a more renewable way to produce something that we use every day? And so the same might be true. Maybe there's a way to take bamboo or something else and produce the parts that we put on the dashboards of our car instead of using plastic, which uses petroleum to produce. All it takes is for someone to have a good idea and for there to be an opportunity for them to implement that idea. Nobody, I wouldn't say nobody, but most people won't spend money to do something unless there's a possibility of it generating a return. Now, that's key, right? So we should as a people, as a consumer, we should demand of our automobile producers that by a certain year we would like to see 95% of the components within an automobile come from a renewable resource and not use petroleum to be created or refined. We buy these vehicles. If the consumers band together and require or demand something, guess what? The manufacturer will do it so that they can sell the vehicle. Anyways, one last thing before I sign off, and that's electric eels. Just want to throw that out there. Electric eels, or for that matter, any creature that is bioluminescent. They, using a biological process, create electricity or create light. How do they do it? Can we reproduce it? Just there are a lot of things in nature that we should really be looking at and saying, how do they do this, and can we reproduce it to benefit us so that we're not negatively impacting the world that we expect our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren to inhabit. I don't know if it's selfishness or people don't want to give up a certain way of life, but we're screwing things up for our kids and our grandkids. And if you care at all about your legacy, if you care at all about the world that you leave behind, you should want to make a change, and you should want to influence others to make a change. If you can't see, I'm wearing a hoodie here that has Starfleet Academy on it. And one of the big things I like about Star Trek is the whole thought of doing something for the improvement of humanity. So, all these ideas that I'm sharing out here on YouTube, if I had the means or the backing, sure, I could go figure out how to do all this stuff. But I'm one person. If 20 people watches this video and shares maybe some of the ideas that I have with 5 of their friends, and those 5 friends, one of those people shares it with 5 of their friends, and so on and so forth, then my idea will proliferate through the environment, and maybe we can get some of this stuff done if it's feasible. I want to share my ideas, not for my own wealth and benefit, but for the future of the human race. I actually had an idea a couple of years ago. I wanted to start a nonprofit organization. I went out and bought or acquired, or whatever, how you say it, the domain humanitiesfuture.org. And my intention was to basically spin up a nonprofit where people like myself could come and share ideas about how to ensure humanity's future, how to make things better for the human race, how to ensure that we don't just screw this world up beyond belief, and we are forced to look at Mars or the moon or some other drastic measure outside of our exact, this planet, in order to thrive or to live on. And I still may stand that up. I still have the domain, but that's my intention. So some of my videos are more, I guess, out there in nature, but some of these will be like this one. It'll be ideas that I have about how we could maybe do things a little better. And I hope that some of this stuff leads to us making a difference, us making it better for our kids to live, and their kids are kids, and so on and so forth. The human race on the planet Earth has existed in a small fraction of the overall Earth's existence. We are still very, very young. We need to figure out a better way to do things. So that's all I'll say. Thank you for anybody who happens to be listening, and have a good day.